Testing 1 2 3 4. Testing, testing.
welcome. I'd like to call to order the business meeting of the Pelham Public Schools for September 7th, 2022. Can everybody stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Item 2.3 is reiteration of the executive session motions.
Yes, we held executive session for the purpose of discussing the record of a particular student.
Okay, thank you. Item 2.4 is opening remarks. That's me. Well, I thought about what I could say for my opening remarks, and then I realized first day of school. We had an incredible first day of school and back to normal, even though it was a little bit rainy. I think saw a lot of happy faces with my own kids, drop off, pick up, and ran into a huge crowd of middle and high schoolers exiting around 3 o'clock, and everybody looked very happy. I also got to speak with our newly hired teachers last week and was very impressed. An incredible group of people and seemed very passionate and dedicated to education, and was honored to speak to the full faculty at the Superintendent's Conference Day. And people seemed to be in very good spirits, especially after Mr. Finnegan spoke. He was very entertaining, so that was a fun day. We will be approving tonight our board governance, meeting, and communication protocols. And I just wanted to reiterate sort of the preamble that we added this year. The board will employ systems-based thinking to optimize student achievement and community engagement with a focus on strategic direction, policy making, stewardship, oversight, and community leadership. So I think I may actually mention that each time we meet, just to keep our focus on those items. And we also last time approved our goals, district and board goals for the year, which were kind of grouped in three. The first one to focus on our vision and mission statement and sort of defining academic excellence. Secondly, what are our three re's? Redirect.
Recenter. I have them written down here.
Reclaim.
Recenter, reclaim, and redirect.
Going back to our strategic plan, working on cultural competence, whole child, and authentic learning, and the board will be especially focusing on finances and facilities this year. The board is, we're all committed to our district mission and vision statement and our motto of inspiring a standard of excellence for all students. And I especially want parents and the community to know that last month the board reviewed Regents' test results from the prior year with Dr. Champ at our annual retreat. Dr. Champ and Dr. Bowman and the whole administrative team are also now reviewing state assessment results. The team is working hard to identify both our areas of success, and there were many, and areas in need of improvement. The board will be hearing further information about those efforts in coming weeks, and we'll continue to monitor that. The board is very supportive of our faculty and our administrative team, and we know, I wrote we believe, but I'm going to change it to we know we have excellent teachers in the Pelham Public Schools, and we will continue to focus on setting strategic direction, policy making, stewardship, oversight, and community leadership to make sure that all teachers and students have the resources that they need to be as successful as possible. I think we were all very happy to see the new COVID protocols, which are less restrictive than last year, or in the last few years. And those are based on state guidelines and mostly CDC guidance as well. And if parents have any questions, I know you'll be speaking about this too, they can certainly reach out to Ms. Wazo or the principal at their local school. The board also toured all of our facilities, and very impressive to see all the work that was done by the facilities team. We very proud of our schools, and as we focus on facilities and finance, want to make maintenance and upgrades a priority. Thank you. Okay.
Great.
So 4.1, Superintendent's Report.
Do you want to do minutes first?
Oh, sorry.
Section 3?
3. So we have minutes 3.1 through 3.3 from our business meeting and the 2 nights of the annual retreat. I think I could do a consent agenda to approve those minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the 3.1.
3.1 through 3.3. And second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. So 4.1, Superintendent's Report.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michael. And you checked a number of boxes off mine, but I'll probably duplicate anyways, because I do agree. It was an awesome start to the school year. Way back, starting from our new teacher orientation that we had since last time. So thank you for being there and sharing words of encouragement and support for our new faculty. Dr. Garcia, in his new role, expanded our new teacher orientation. I hope I'm not stepping on his toes by saying things. Hopefully he'll talk some about it.
No, it just makes the meeting a lot shorter. So.
Okay. But it was great to be able to expand that to 2 full days of onboarding, which just gives us more opportunity to really make sure that teachers are welcomed, are supported, and have all the information that they need to really get them off to a strong start. And then to be followed by 2 days of superintendent's conference days. And again, the cabinet really worked hard to plan that, and put that together. Our administrative team did a phenomenal job of planning for the professional development, faculty meetings, department meetings, trainings, and again, I'm probably stealing thunder from this corner of the table. Dr. Bowman and Ms. Holtz, and I likely will be sharing some of that as well. But really 2 very energy-filled days. It was really exciting to get back and for it to really finally feel as normal as possible. It was great. It was the first time that we had all sat in the Pelham Memorial High School auditorium since 2019. So to sit there and think about what had happened over the prior 3 years and everything that we've overcome and achieved was really exciting. And as you said, the theme for the year, recentering on teaching and learning, really reclaiming our motto of inspiring a standard of excellence and redirecting our efforts and energies around communications to the places that people can best get the right answer, which is generally here and not the internet. So really excited about the work that is ahead in those areas. And the work really began those days as we spent time recentering ourselves together as a faculty and as a learning organization. So looking forward to the work that is to come. We're also, I think I'd mentioned it maybe at our last board meeting. Actually, it was the day following. We had our administrative retreat as well following our last board meeting, and that was another wonderful day with the team planning for the year that is ahead. So to see a lot of those initial plans already being carried out was exciting, and we're going to be continuing that with our administrative team as we meet throughout the year. So we were then excited to roll forward to this year, and yesterday's opening of school, even the rain could not ruin the excitement. We kept saying it was a lot like a wedding where rain is a sign of well wishes. So we're excited to have all the kids back. Thanks to all the parents for their patience. I know it made arrivals, especially at the elementaries, a little crazy, but that's kind of part of the fun. Nobody melted. That was a good part. Everybody got there, got where they belonged. Our buildings have been incredibly busy helping kids get oriented, but I know the administrative team, the cabinet, we were all around. I think I managed to get to all 6 buildings before noon yesterday, which was a new accomplishment for me. But everyone got to get in, show their face, say hello, see the kids, encourage the teachers, and just see the great work that was already happening. Routines were already in place, mindfulness activities, getting to know one another activities, supplies getting organized, learning about lunch and recess, even the high school assemblies, middle school assemblies. So it was really great. And the kids all really seemed very receptive. And I think by this time next week, it's going to feel like we never left in a good way. Things will be right back into the routine, right back into gear. So thank you again to our administrators, to our faculty and staff. Our counselors are working overtime right now, making sure, especially at the high school and middle school, that the schedules are all set. So we're really excited about their work there. So off and running. Just a couple, I got a lot of different items tonight, so I apologize for the length of this. Jim will be going in depth through our facilities, so I'm going to not steal his thunder on that, but as the board got to see, we were well in shape for the start of this school year. Things are even better than when we were there a week ago, especially with some of the schools, but also some of the capital projects have continued to move forward. So he will be touching on that. On the safety front, which is important to all of us, we definitely use the start of a new year as a chance to really redouble on our efforts. We never want to get complacent, so reminders of having doorknobs locked at all times, really being vigilant on exterior doors. Things like that are really important. Those with high school children may have discovered them coming home with lanyards, similar to what we have. That's another safety feature. We have an open campus, so we have a lot of doors. People can go in and out, and always looking for ways we can improve our student safety. This year, the high school took the step of giving all students IDs and lanyards to wear. They have to show their ID on the way out and the way in. If they are a student who can access the free campus privileges, which is not all of them. They are color-coded so that just by sight, staff can tell what grade level the students are in, just to help expedite those processes. So really wanted to make sure that the right people are in our buildings and nobody else who doesn't belong there is in. So we were really appreciative to students for receiving that really in the spirit in which it was meant. I was really proud and pleased to see so many of the high school students immediately just taking right to it. So that's going to help us with our safety protocols. Jim's office heads up security, so we've already met. We've met with fire. We're going to be meeting with our police, first responders very shortly. Buildings are going to be getting their BERT teams together, the building emergency teams, getting those meetings up and running, and we're going to start practicing our annual required drills so that folks know, because COVID protocols are basically mostly back to normal, we are going to be resuming normal lockdown drills. For the last 2 years, students have just stayed at their desks, and the teachers have orally talked them through what they would do if there was a lockdown. We're going to resume going back to practicing in real time. So our usual approach for the last number of years before COVID was the first time through, very educational approach. Everybody knows it's coming. We go over the PA. We talk the kids through it because we know there can also be some anxiety around drills. So we want to make it as clear, and especially now as we're going back to a protocol that some of the students may never have done or may never have done in their current school. We're going to use that first time through educationally, and then gradually throughout the year we move from fully announced and educational to completely unannounced to help just bring that muscle memory into place. So those are a few of the items there. Part and parcel, and again, stealing his thunder a little bit, can I just say it? We just today got the
Oh, yeah. Cancel that slide.
Okay, so we got the certificate of occupancy this afternoon for the expansion at Prospect Hill. So we're going to be able to start using our new extension, which is the double door security entry with a greeter like we have at most of our other schools. So we're really excited about that from the security perspective. Also, that makes the building ADA accessible now, finally. So really excited about those things. Moving into COVID, the thing that we hope to spend as little time as possible on this year, but it's still something that we live with. So we did send out our protocols. I think we've gotten really positive feedback overall on that. Most everyone is really happy. We do want to create a mask, an environment where people feel comfortable wearing a mask if they want, especially as things go up and down, as people have exposures over the course of the year. We want people to feel comfortable in that sense, and we do have students and staff still wearing them by choice, and absolutely respect that. We did see a couple questions come up about the COVID protocols since we sent the notifications out. The biggest question that I saw had to do with the testing. Why do you have to test in some cases and not other cases? As simple as I can explain it, if someone tests positive for COVID, the CDC guidance says they do not have to test to return. They just have to wait out their time, so it's the first 5 days they must stay home and isolate. If their symptoms are improving and fever-free within 24 hours without fever-reducing medication, they can return for days 6 through 10 with a mask. So that's why they don't have to test, because the CDC does not require them to test. And I think most of us know if you do test, you may come up positive, and you don't want to keep restarting the clock. So for those who have not tested positive but are showing symptoms of COVID that can't be explained by something else, those are the folks that we need to stay home and either get a PCR test or do the 2 home tests within, I think it's a 24-hour period. And if those come back negative, then the student is welcome to come back to school. So it really depends on, were you COVID positive or not? That's really the difference between those 2 protocols. And it really goes back to predominantly CDC regulations, recommendations, as well as Tracy and our nursing staff, we've consulted with our district doctor as well, just for some advice on that return when students are demonstrating, or staff both, are demonstrating symptoms. We needed some kind of gauge from a medical expert, and Dr. Liu felt, similar to what we were doing in the spring, that that was a reasonable gauge. So if folks have questions about COVID protocols beyond that, we did bring Jackie Hueso back this year. She's our nurse coordinator. She's working directly under Tracy. And she was our COVID coordinator last year, so very knowledgeable about all the regulations around COVID. So she's a person to contact, or you can speak to your child's building principal. Those are the best places for answers. And again, with the new guidance, there's very little requirement. And again, as we're trying to stop the whack-a-mole game of COVID and recenter our efforts back on teaching and learning, all those resources that were sapped away dealing with that, we need those back in classrooms and on instruction and teaching and learning. So as far as contact tracing, we're no longer required to contact trace or notify when there's exposure. I think all of us, hopefully most of us, have gotten used to the fact when we take the train, when we go to the grocery store, go to church, we go wherever we go, we're risking exposure every day. And taking whatever reasonable accommodations we need to make ourselves feel safe and our families feel safe. So that's really the approach. We did decide, though, again, in consultation with our district doctor, if there are a couple cases or more in a class, then we're going to take the efforts to notify, because we do want to do something to try to stop any potential expansion in that kind of infection. To the degree that we have home tests available, we'll continue to make those available. So we're not sure yet what the state is going to continue to push our way. I think the well may dry up at some point in time, but for now, we were able to get them from the state, and we'll continue to offer those to families as much as possible. Let me pause. I've got a lot more to go, but let me pause there in case there's questions. I've got a lot tonight. Okay. Jim's going to talk about facilities. I know that Dr. Bowman is going to touch on Regents, and again, thank you for touching on that, so I'm going to pass by that. Okay, couple small items, then I'm going to go to kind of an update on some summer programs that we had that I wanted to make the board aware of. I'm sure everyone is aware, Alex has done a great job of updating our district calendar, our events calendar. Encourage everyone to please check this frequently and often. As dates change, we update this on the website, so please do. There's tons of things to come and be part of. This year, again, our efforts are going to be on really reestablishing relationships in person to the greatest degree possible. So whether it's committee work with the board, open house, really excited about that, to be having everyone to come physically into open house. Parent-teacher conferences, we're going to make those available in person, but we are going to offer a remote option for those, because we know the accessibility for many parents was really helpful last year. But in large part, a lot of our events, we're really trying to, especially if they're substantive events, like our curriculum nights, the back-to-school nights, things where being in person, putting your hands on things, seeing somebody in person, having those relationships, we're really working hard to make that all in person this year and to move away from the remote. But also, I know if there are events that are more informational, a lot of times our PTA events, things at night, PTA council, we're going to still make a lot of those remote because we want the accessibility. So we're trying to just gauge where we feel that the priority needs to be on the in-person connection to try to restore that. So again, check your calendars for that. Lots going on here in the school. One new little item that just got pushed my way today, I'm hoping it gets out to the parents and students of our athletes. Mr. Hodge found a new system this year to try to make practices and game schedules more accessible. Big news, yes. It's called Activity Scheduler. It feeds right from, I think it's right from the sports pack. But what it is, it's a very user-friendly interface where it shows live time up to date, and you can download an app. And it literally, there it is. Today, Wednesday the 7th, we had JV football at Glover Field. JV, it's so much easier than the Google Calendar. It's easier than Sports Pack. You can get it right to your phone, so highly recommend that. And it'll be updated with all the changes.
Did a notice go out about that?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't think I saw
I
one
know he
yet.
sent it
I'm
to
like,
us.
wow, that's exciting news.
But yeah, we definitely
Very
want to get
user-friendly.
that word out, because I think it's going to really improve communication and reduce surprises and frustrations about where do I go when. So
Relying
it's
on
gonna
our
be-
children to tell us where they
and
need
not
to
have
be.
to rely on your children to tell you, yes. Just an update for the board, we're still in process and searching for to fill the DEI position. We did repost that again internally this week. Now that everyone's back from the summer, we're hoping to elicit a little bit more interest in that, so we'll keep you posted as that search goes on. One more quick notice, it's an awesome thing, and then I'm going to go to my summer report. We just got notified today at the high school that we had 10 students that were selected as College Board National Recognition Program awardees. So I don't even know if they know yet, but those students are Audrey Levinson, Chris Franchitti, Genevieve Pereira, Giovanni Carrion Silva, Ian Urquhart, James Blackburn, Matthew Mikaloff, Milan Otandi, Naya Gonzalez Breen, and Sorani Campo. Very exciting. So that's, congratulations to our students. Day 2 of school, we're already knocking it out of the park. All right, so one more topic. I just wanted to share a little bit of this, because this is something that certainly the board sees in our budget, and there was some talk about this before, back in the spring. Every summer, we've been fortunate that the board has supported the budget to offer summer programs to our students, K through 8. Thanks to Dr. Thompson, Dr. Callahan, and Ms. Sabia, who I don't know how many years in a row this is, but they partner to oversee the summer programs for our K through 8 students. This year, in the past, we'd always housed it at the middle school. We would bring furniture over from the elementary, so we had furniture for the little guys. But this year, because we had a fully air-conditioned elementary school, we tried it in 2 separate buildings. So they were running between 2 campuses, and they did a phenomenal job of setting it up, overseeing and carrying out that work. Within that program, it included our extended school year program, which is under the auspices of special education, and it's specific to students who on their IEP call for that, and that's students who need that service to prevent regression over the summer. And that we were able to, in that program, to offer ELA and mathematics to ESY students grades K through 5. We were also able to offer our Summer Stars program, which I'll talk more in a second. Middle school students also had opportunities this summer if they needed remediation to receive credit for their Regents level or regular middle level academic classes. So the extended school year program ran from the Monday after school ended right through August 16th. Again, it's designed for special education students to stay on track with their IEP goals. The Summer Stars program is for general education. It's more of a 5-week program, and that's focused specifically on ELA and math. We were excited to have, again, a site supervisor for that, Ms. Kate Alex Barone, who served as the on-site coordinator, assisting our administrators with that work. The middle school program was a 4-week program and focused on reading, writing, and math instruction, as well as the coursework that those students needed to make up if they had not passed, or if they also needed to retake the earth science exam. We have what we call our earth science crash course that has been designed. As you all know, all of our 8th grade students take earth science, which is a high school level course, and the Regents exam is the end of that. And we want to make sure that our students can get over that hump and earn that high school credit. So for those who don't pass during the school year, they're invited back for the summer. And they then took that exam on August 17th, and I'll let you know how they did just shortly. In the ESY program, students receive behavioral support, motor skill development support, speech language, and any other individually prescribed services on their IEP. They also had time really to play and build their social skills together, which is important for our students, especially in the summer. In the Summer Stars program, which I didn't mention on the other page, but it's, I think, important to note, is generally predominantly funded through our Title I program, our Title I funding. Hutchinson is our Title I elementary school, so it was basically designed for the students at Hutchinson who were needing more support in ELA and in math. We are able, though, if there's empty seats in those classrooms, to invite students from all the buildings who qualify, and we predominantly use our Ames Web screener as the identification tool for those students. And we, of course, then work on building skills using skills that we would use in our academic intervention services. We use pieces of the Singapore math program that come out of our Math in Focus series. The ELA instruction is really grounded in the science of reading and the next generation English language arts standards. So the students experience things such as word study, reading and writing at every grade level, in a variety of different areas of phonics and phonemic awareness development. A couple other points. The ESY program generally is very small. And that gives the staff the ability to really focus on those students, again, to make sure that there is not regression over the summer. Summer Stars itself has grown over the past couple of years. I think especially coming out of the pandemic, that's been one of our biggest pieces of intervention for our students throughout the summer so they can continue their learning. I'm going to be sending the full report of this home to the board as well. I'm skimming and just hitting highlights, but you can actually see the numbers. But on the enrollment side, just for example, for our summer program, if you go back to 2018, we had about 45 students. 2019, 44 students. This year, we had 69 students in the program. So the extra funding that went towards it and the extra efforts to get those students in was really worthwhile.
Sorry, can you say those numbers again?
2018, we had 45 students, and this year we had 69. And again, those drew from all buildings, predominantly Hutchinson as our Title I school, but we were able to also accommodate students from the 3 other elementaries there as well.
I'm pleased to hear those numbers because I think I asked Dr. Garcia at a meeting last year about the percentage. We talked about this program, right? Or maybe it was one of our committee meetings on this topic. And I asked a question about how many students are recommended to actually attend, and it was like 50%, or it was a lower number than I was expecting, given how much summer support is discussed. So I'm happy to hear we've had an increase in students.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is that right?
And Dr.
Yeah,
Garcia
it's
was
pretty
critical in setting this up.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
mean,
fair
we
to say
always
more
invite
students took
right?
advantage of it
Yeah,
this
we always
year.
invite usually, well, this past year over 100 students, my recollection. And this is, it's a pretty high number though
Yeah,
that I think
the
accepted,
69.
which is good.
Yeah.
I think probably maybe having it only 4 days earlier in the summer, it ended earlier in
Yeah.
August
Yeah.
than in the past, which I think was attractive for parents as well.
Yeah. A good example of the enrollment, looking at the middle school courses, we had, I think, an even higher percentage there. We had in 6th grade, 25 were invited, 20 attended. 7th grade, not as good, 27 invited, 13 attended. 8th grade, a little bit lower as well. But Earth Science, I think this is great. 14 were invited, 13 attended.
That's great.
And then we look at the results. Those 13, all of them, when they took the exam, either passed the exam or qualified for the safety net. So basically, we were able to get all of those students who attended the program through the Regents exam requirement, which I think is a testament to the work the teachers
Just
did.
such a great resource. You want the
Yep.
students who are eligible to take advantage. I'm happy to hear
Yeah, definitely.
that update.
And I would say too, it is a relatively short program. They did use a variety of screeners. I'm not going to go into it now, but the board will see that as you get the report. And I think the same with ESY. A lot of this is about maintenance of skills through the summer. Ideally, there's some growth too, but it is such a short amount of time. You may not necessarily get measurable growth. There is some that you'll see, but you will see the significant amount of students at least maintain their skills. And I think that was what we were aiming for. Part of that also is impacted by attendance, as Dr. Garcia said. Sometimes the schedule is really attractive to parents. We were able to start earlier and end earlier, and parents could still get their summers. But there are times where students are absent for a week because the family is gone. We ask for as much commitment as possible, but the more students come, the more progress they make, but we recognize that they may not be there 100% of the time. Also interesting for the board to see when you get this, they did a teacher and parent feedback survey this time, which I thought showed some really positive results as well. So thank you to that team, the Drs. Thompson, Callahan, and Ms. Sabia for putting together this comprehensive report, and for the great work that they did for the kids throughout the summer. I think that really positioned those students to be ready to come back and to pick up right where they left off and continue to grow and excel in the year to come. That ends my report for tonight.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, the next section is committee reports, Board of Education committee reports. We haven't really had any committee meetings, right? So,
Yeah, we have one coming up
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah, the finance committee is going to be Monday.
okay, great. 4.3, Assistant Superintendent's update on authentic learning.
Okay, so I apologize in advance for the re-repetition of some of the things that have been discussed, but I do want to share. We did host new teacher orientation on August 30th and August 29th and August 30th. On August 30th, I was able to meet with our brand new teachers and discuss with them the goals and the expectations of the district, but also reminding them of their why they decided to go into teaching. Offered some advice from the field, most poignantly from actual children who recommended that new teachers not sit students who are talkative and like each other near one another because they won't pay attention to what's going on in the classroom. I thought that was very sage advice to give. Following that, we hosted our 2 days of superintendent's conference days. There was positive energy, as you both have already mentioned, really just coming off the walls. And it's a combination of being rejuvenated to be in person and also a return to the community and the community feeling. That was wonderful. Our kindergarten, first and second grade teachers participated in Teachers College professional development throughout the course of the days. We had a cohort of teachers participate in 2 days of responsive classroom training, so they're ready. That's actually cohort 4, so we're almost completely trained, if not completely trained already. Our ICT teams from Hutchinson also were trained, so that's a marriage between the general education teacher and the special education teacher, and it is quite honestly a marriage. And so that training took place as well. We had faculty meetings from every single building, and many of those included team building activities. For example, our middle school teachers built bridges out of bricks, and they made sure that those bricks were also symbolic of obstacles that they were moving out of their way. So to start the year off with some team building approaches, they also had a I'm not exactly sure what title to put on it, if it's more like a scavenger hunt or if it's an escape the room that Miss Sabia created, but there was definitely some competition that not only was within the building, but went outside as well. Our elementary grade level team meetings included professional development in math on a new number sense screening, digital platform, progress monitoring, and MTSS. All of the departments have reviewed last year's growth as well as performance. They've set personal and professional goals for this year, not only for themselves as individual teachers, but for inclusive of the entire department and building. Our English teachers reviewed the paper clips project. They assured that writing experiences would be in alignment. They went through civil discourse strategies as well as progress monitoring in AIS, which would be a function of the MTSS process as well. Our social studies teacher reviewed Facing History and Ourselves lessons that will be integrated in grades 6, 8, and 11. They revisited civil discourse strategies and further discussed the IB Middle Years program as well as the Seal of Civic Readiness, which I know was recently in the On Board magazine, and National History Day projects. There was a lot going on. So our science teachers in grades 6 to 12 discussed the expansion of an inquiry-based learning project, so learning labs. They wanted to make sure that we are fully adopting the New York State Science Learning Standards and the Next Gen standards as well. There was data analysis that occurred that focused not only on last year's data, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, and obviously in my board presentation coming up, but how that would inform instruction. But when you very often math students, or you hear of children saying, I'm not good at math, and that's really not accurate. However, it becomes a way of thinking, and so the department's focused on restructuring that and trying to reframe it so that students' self-esteem when it comes to math skills remains intact so that they have a stronger commitment to the discipline. Moving on to the elementary report cards, we are in the final stages of the drafts of those. We are meeting as a team next week to review the final drafts for every little detail, parallel structure of sentences, making sure the periods are consistent, making sure that we have the right, that it looks the way it should, so that the focus can be on the content and what it tells us about the children's learning. So we're working that out, and we fully expect to have the rollout and the planning and everything ready to go at the end of the first trimester, which is November 22nd.
And you're an English teacher, right?
Yes.
By background.
Yes.
Just that, so I appreciate the
Yes,
Yeah.
and I'm
a lot of high school English coming back to me.
somewhat detail-oriented when it comes to things like that. My onboarding experiences have continued, and I joined this team here for our facilities tour on August 31st. Very poignant to me was how each elementary building has approached makerspace and made sure that there was an opportunity for the students to utilize their makerspace, whether it was in the classroom, so the makerspace comes to them, or there was a whole classroom dedicated to it, and seeing how that has developed over time and become something that's really integral to each building. I also was very interested in seeing come to fruition, I won't steal your thunder, but how the flexible seating has really become something that we are able to bring back, but also part of a longer term plan so that we can make sure that the kids have it, throughout. I also met with Mr. Drake to talk about each building's safety plan as well as the district level plan. And so that's great. Moving on to MTSS and Branching Minds, I met with the folks from Branching Minds again. As I mentioned in our last meeting, the data is available, has been uploaded, and so now what we're doing is making sure that it's all organized and coming up with a professional development plan so that our team leaders are trained and able to use it from their level, but also ensuring that the right people have access to the right information so that we could be proactive and strategic in how we address students' needs. So that would include making sure that the folks who are on the MTSS team, so building psychologists and social workers and guidance counselors, have access to the students who might be brought to the team, but also so that classroom teachers and interventionists have access to the students who they directly oversee, to be able to see what tiers of intervention are in place, over time the progress monitoring to see that the interventions are working, so that part of the MTSS plan is to reconvene to really diagnose whether or not what's put into place is supporting the student and helping to bridge any gaps that are there. And so, as I said, there will be professional development throughout the year, both for leaders, so building leaders, district leaders, department leaders, but also for the interventionists and teachers from the buildings. So we're looking forward to that. Again, continuing to review New York State assessments from this spring, which will be something that I present to you at the next meeting. However, I think a very timely conversation to have, given the recent publications in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the Washington Post, and most recently the Pelham Examiner, regarding student performance data. The NAEP results, just to give a little bit of a background, they're nationally normed exams that are given to the greatest extent possible to groups of students so that you can get an idea of how we perform nationally. The most recent publication shows that our 9-year-olds and third grade 9-year-olds are chosen because that's a critical point where engagement in school is much more predictive of success long term. And so the results nationally are that we have, as a country, seen the greatest drop in student performance since the 1990s. What the NAEP results do indicate, though, is that the students who were doing I want to read this because it comes out better. So as students' pre-pandemic percentiles are reviewed, the lower the pre-pandemic percentile of achievement, the steeper the slope of the drop in results. So What that means is, for example, if you were in the 90th percentile of results in math prior to the pandemic, then there was a 3-point drop. Whereas if you were in the lowest 10th percentile, then you drop 12 points. So the gaps are widening for students who struggle for whatever reason as a result of the pandemic, mostly. So some of the context around that is that there was, as we all know, interrupted in-person instruction for an extended period of time. And there is a consensus that in-person instruction is certainly superior to virtual learning, coupled with the differences in progress monitoring for humanities versus math and science. So for example, as an English teacher, I could tell if a student wrote an essay, but I probably wouldn't be able to tell if their parents or the internet completed their math assignment, because the answers are the answers are the answers, but I have an idea of what the voice looks like when a child writes something versus what, how the answers come out. So that's a little bit more difficult to monitor when you're talking about concrete answers that are either right or wrong rather than other things. Also, during the pandemic, students did not have as many hands-on experiences in their math classes, and especially at the foundational age, you need to have manipulatives, especially for those students who are kinesthetic learners or visual learners. They need to see it, feel it, touch it to be able to really understand the concepts. And the same thing happens when you talk about science, right? So many of those lab experiences, when you're training students to think like scientists, are necessary to see success when you're learning scientific foundational skills and methods of thinking. Similarly, even when we had in-person instruction, quarantining rules required that, if you were exposed, then you were out of school, which not only are we then talking about the difference in quality of in-person instruction versus virtual instruction, but that interrupted instruction where you have one way, then you're going another way, and trying to, as a teacher, balance both ways of learning at once, those are difficulties. So it's not surprising that the NAEP results are the way that they are, given all of that and many other factors as well. What was highlighted most recently that I want to talk quickly about, but we'll continue the conversation at our next meeting, one of the areas that was discussed were the results for the chemistry regents last year, and a couple of contextual pieces of information that I want to share. So there are two different, some regents are required by New York State, right? They're gatekeeping experiences, they are not, and then there are those that are not commencement required regents exams. It's important to understand that those that are required are designed so that all 5 of the big districts will have percentages of passing that will be good, right? Whereas others, like chemistry, like geometry, they are not. And so the rubrics, the coursework, the rubrics designed to grade the exams and the exams themselves are more rigorous. Typically, many districts, and as time goes on, more and more districts do not have open enrollment to those courses. We do have open enrollment to those courses. To our credit, we give all students the opportunity to take chemistry. However, this particular cohort of students who took the chemistry regents did not have prior regents experiences, because in the prior administration, we were given options, and so their first regents opportunity may have been something that they didn't take up. So they didn't have that experience. Prior to that, so it's chemistry, then it's going backwards in time. Chemistry, before that is living environment, before that is earth science. There were no regents. So for these students, this is their first opportunity to sit for a regents exam. And linked to that, this is their first opportunity to have lab requirements to be able to sit for the regents exam, which will have an impact if, in most cases, you will have had 3 exams behind you, 2 other lab exams behind you when you get to the 3rd one. Not having that and not having that adjusted in the way that the exam was written or administered will have an impact. Again, in other districts, there is not open enrollment, and in fact, so there's selective enrollment. You're either recommended to go in and then you're allowed to go in, or some schools have chosen not to offer these regents exams at all. We are more open and giving the children the opportunity to take these Regents exams. So some of our comparable districts didn't even offer the chemistry Regents, so it's difficult to really do a compare-contrast. Specifically here, we did have 2 new teachers who taught the chemistry course last year. Both were certified, both were very excited and committed and did a great job of teaching to their students. However, in response to all of this, now what Dr. Callahan has done proactively for this coming year is making sure that there's more of a focus. So one of the teachers who's also certified as a living environment teacher is now not teaching both chemistry and living environment. He's just teaching living environment, so he can focus solely on that, and vice versa with the second teacher, who has a PhD in biochemistry, and so likely will be able to handle the Regents chemistry curriculum without a problem, but now has more of a focus on that curriculum. This summer, some of the work that was conducted by the science department includes really taking a good hard look at the data. So going through item analysis, that's I call that a RAP analysis, which is wrong answer patterns. And so you look to see, is there continuity between different areas, different units where the children did extraordinarily well, so maybe we don't need to spend quite the same number of days on this unit because the kids got it, and are there other areas where the kids really didn't perform to the greatest, to our expectations, and so expanding instruction, looking for new ways to make sure that that mark is gotten. Those things took place over the summer, not only looking at those patterns within the district, but looking at those patterns comparatively. To see, how did we do versus the region being the county. So if, for example, 54% of Pelham students got number 3 correct, but 42% of the region answered that question correctly, then by design the question is difficult, and we did better than the region on that exam, on that item. I apologize.
Did you have a question?
No. I just said the question,
Oh,
or item.
Oh, okay. With geometry, it's important to understand that geometry is skill-based. Unlike chemistry, the year before they're taking living environment, and so the curriculum doesn't really overlap. Geometry is a class that really does build on the foundational skills that are developed in algebra in prior years. And so, again, having the students not have the opportunity to take the algebra regents, or not taking up the opportunity to have the algebra regents, would have posed a bit of an obstacle to them from the test taking perspective, right? Like they never sat for an algebra regents or a math regents before. Coupled with the year prior having an interrupted education like I described, when you're in a geometry class, if you don't have the foundational algebraic skills, it's going to be very difficult for you to master the geometry curriculum. And so our teachers, recognizing that these foundational skills are really tremendous and imperative for success in geometry and algebra 2 and obviously higher level classes, did make sure that they went back and tried to fill those gaps to the best of their ability. However, I just want to go back to the 3 articles that were published about the NAEP. They've already figured out what the ratio of time, like the percentage lost versus time it's going to take to build back, and the average is about 3 years. And so the fact that there was a dip in our geometry region scores is indicative of some of that data coming to fruition here. However, having already kind of anticipated that, our teachers have been working to make sure that those foundational skills are in place moving forward. And so our pacing for growth needs to outpace the curriculum, and we're fully aware of that and are continuing to work on different ways to make that happen. And again, one other point that I just want to make with regard to the geometry classes is that, the teachers themselves didn't change. So the same teachers had been teaching geometry pre-pandemic, throughout the pandemic, and then this past year. And so I would venture to say that the children who are in the courses are of the same, they're still Pelham students who have gone through the system to the same. The one major change that has happened is that the children who sat for the geometry regions just went through a pandemic for 2.5 years of what couldn't be anything other than interrupted instruction. And so it's important to consider that when thinking, well, what happened but more important to consider that when we make plans moving forward, not only for this year, but next year and the following year, what do we do about it? And so those are the conversations that we're having, and those are the areas that we're working to address.
Thank you.
Okay.
Looking forward to the presentation, I think, at our next meeting, right, where you're going to
Yes.
kind of dive into.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome, thank you.
Absolutely.
I thought your sort of distillation of, some of the nationwide data as reported in newspapers was really helpful. And unless I'm mistaken, the kind of local data is currently under embargo. So, yeah. What is the, remind me, I don't know, I think I should know this, but could you just remind me when that embargo is lifted so the district can sort of report on that data and identify?
I don't know if Sharon's
Yeah.
given you a date yet. The state is still, they're trying to push it sooner, but they still haven't given us a date. I do believe the parent reports will get home to you as parents. Those should be mailing out this week from BOCES. They don't come from us, they come from BOCES. Those should be hitting home anytime. So you may be able to get a sense of your child's work, but until they lift the embargo, we can't provide the district or the comparative
And
context.
that's for the 3 to 8 ELA
Yeah,
and math
so
assessments.
we're hoping sometime before the end of the month, but they haven't given us a firm date yet.
Okay, so weeks rather than months.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we're all really happy to hear the level of detail, even going question by question, to dive into. So I think that's very reassuring.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to say, Dr. Callahan and his teachers have done a tremendous job in making sure that every stone is turned over, looked under, reviewed, analyzed, and I don't mean that as a joke because they teach earth science, although after I said it, I'm like, thank you.
Whole child.
Yeah. 4.4, Assistant Superintendent's update on the whole child.
So,
You do not feel you have to compete with the length of Dr.
I will
Bowman.
not. So I will echo some of the comments that we've already made. I as well participated on day 2 of new teacher orientation. So myself, along with the Director of Guidance, Jean Farrell, and the Supervisors of Special Education, Dr. Ribeiro and Greg Lau, met with the new teachers. Again, it was great to see sort of the excitement and the enthusiasm that being new brings to the table. It was a great opportunity for me and as a department to share information about what falls under the umbrella of People Personnel Services. Sometimes that's a little confusing. And then also just highlight some key points about special education that I need new teachers to be aware of up and running immediately. Of course, we reviewed the necessary must-knows about special education, such as the significance of the IEP being a legal document, and the need to read and understand all students' IEPs as part of the 408's compliance process. And I also reviewed the difference between 504 plans and IEPs because sometimes that could be confusing. On superintendent conference days, as Dr. Champ and Dr. Bowman referred to, we were very busy with professional development. The 31st and the 1st were busy, filled with learning activities, as Dr. Bowman mentioned. Cohort 4 of Responsive Classroom met, and so over 20 teachers between Hutch, Siwanoy, and Prospect joined to begin their journey about setting up a sense of community and belonging in their classrooms and what that means in detail. There will be 2 additional training days later in the year, and again, Earl Hunter, who was our consultant to previously trained cohorts, will also be checking in and providing that coaching throughout the year in additional to him being doing the additional training days. As Dr. Bowman mentioned, co-teaching teams in grades 3, 4, and 5 met at Hutch with our PD consultants GNR group. I've worked with GNR Group in the past. I made sure that I just met with them prior to the start of this, so I'm just kind of sure about what their current approach is, making sure that their approach is reflective of the new advances that we know about in regards to co-teaching, specifically with an additional focus on the special and the special education part of that team, and specially designed instruction. Dr. Ribeiro did share that day went well, and our consultant shared in reflection of that day to an email to us how wonderful it was to work with the teams. And many of the general education teachers who volunteered to be team members, it was really refreshing for her to see the enthusiasm as part of that development. In addition, we also held professional development for special education monitors, which was run by our contracted BCBA, Eric Frantino, and Dr. Emily Katz from ICARD, which is the Institute for Children with Autism and Related Disorders. Mr. Frantino, I've also worked with before, but he has worked with Pelham for several years. And this, however, he indicated was the first time that he did this type of training in which we gave the monitors an overview of the basics of disabilities, what child behavior would look like based on the type of a disability they might be specifically working with, what are some basic behavior interventions, as well as data collection. As we began the training, I shared with the monitors the importance of their role with special education students. I think they're a group of individuals we don't often highlight, and I wanted to make sure they understood they are often the front line when it comes to working with some of our students who present with challenges with behavior and academic struggles, and often they're the ones that can make the difference between a student struggling and having a bad day versus a student who has productive days. So I want to make sure that I publicly thank our special education monitors. They are often unsung heroes. They go unnoticed, but they are a critical part of our special education team. So that was important for me. I also participated with Dr. Ribeiro and Greg Lau in the elementary and secondary department meetings we had with special education and PPS staff. We welcomed back staff. We shared key points to start off the new year from a department perspective. We discussed setting goals for the year and also asked the staff to think about trainings and professional development we can provide during our department meetings throughout the year. So what do they want to know more about? What do they want to get a little better about that we can review with them? We also reviewed case manager roles, again, ensuring the importance of compliance with signing off on our 408 logs. On day 2 of the superintendent conference day, I did meet with all the school nurses and our new nurse coordinator, Jackie Huezo. Our agenda included the current COVID protocols, nurse office protocols, medication orders, timelines for completion of health surveys. We discussed the fact that we were going to hold regular nursing department meetings throughout the year, and work to develop a common nursing manual to codify nurse office procedures, ensuring consistency of practice, forms, and approaches building to building. On the front of school counseling, I attended the 9th grade welcome on August 30th, and our 9th grade school counselor, Mr. Uvain, addressed the parents of incoming 9th graders. He talked about his role as a support not only with scheduling and academics, but as one of the high school staff that's there to support the social and emotional needs of those students as they transition in. He talked to the parents about the idea of encouraging students to take risks and not to avoid trying for the fear of failure. His analogy of Reggie Jackson being one of the most celebrated Yankees and coining the term Mr. October, while simultaneously holding the record of the most strikeouts, exemplified the idea of how failure and success are often coupled when trying and taking risks. Thought that was a great message for parents to hear and to share with their students. Some additional highlights from the Director of School Counseling, Mr. Farrell, which I wanted to share. Over the summer, there was completion of the Parchment Alumni Record implementation. So this was something that Lucy Rodolfo and Kim Scalise, the guidance clerical staff, and the entire Director of Technology worked on in getting this project off the ground, and this will allow ease for our alumni who request records, and that'll be fully electronic. So that will facilitate that process. For the first time in several years, colleges will now visit Pelham Memorial High School once again in person, and over 100 colleges will be visiting our high school in the fall. High school and middle school counselors have been hard at work this summer, working on schedules, registering students for summer school, updating transcripts, and registering new students to the district. Thus far, at the time I spoke to Mr. Farrell last week, 37 new students were new to the middle school, high school campus. In an effort to facilitate these transitions, each of these students received a building level tour. We're also excited to report that our high school counselor, Mr. Luis Barcelo, attended the New York State Association for College Admission Counseling Annual Summer Institute in Saratoga Springs as a mentor. This Summer Institute is a 4-day intensive mentor-based experience that brings together emerging professionals from all sides of the desk and energetic seasoned mentors to grapple with the wide range of admission counseling issues. So Mr. Barcelo also took time this summer to visit the colleges, University of Denver, Colorado College, School of Mines, United States Air Force Academy. So while he was doing that, you always kind of couple on some college tours to make sure we're fresh and connect to college admissions staff. This September, high school counselor Ms. Margaret Ellis and Director of Counseling Mr. Eugene Farrell will be attending the National Association for College Admissions Conference in Houston, Texas, also to discuss the latest trends in college admissions with colleagues on both sides of the desk. We want to stay current. In addition, I did also meet with Mr. Drake, our representative from Altiris, to get myself up to speed as part of my onboarding process about building safety. And we talked a little bit about threat assessment and threat assessment training. I believe the administrators went through that last year. Mr. Ricky and I talked about the fact that we want to expand that, and I just wanted to make sure from my lens that we were including the mental health support staff in any type of training that we do in regards to that. And that is it for me.
Feels like they've been here forever, and it's only your second meeting, so I think it speaks to both of your deep levels of understanding in your fields and expertise.
Thank
It's been a busy couple weeks.
Hit the ground
say the
running.
least.
Right. Great, thank you. Next, the Executive Director's update on human resources and leadership.
Yeah, thank you. Just briefly about new faculty orientation. There are several people I want to thank, right, who are the ones who really made it, I think, a success. And Mr. Sabalos, John Sabalos and Lisa DeMastro, the first session on Monday, working with the new teachers on the systems, the technology, and just getting acclimated to the world and the networks that we have here. So that was wonderful. Of course, Janet Connolly, who is the mentor coordinator, who is my partner, will be meeting with all the new teachers monthly, checking in on them, but also trying to give them tools and strategies that they kind of navigate this new culture. And of course, Dr. Champ and Dr. Bowman, Ms. Holtz, and Mr. Ricky for their parts, talking about their areas of responsibility and the importance that they have in the district, but their partnership and understanding their roles in the district. So that was wonderful as well. But just quickly, at the end of the session, we always ask the new teachers to share some feedback, right? So I just wanted to share a few thoughts. I'm not going to read all of them, but just some thoughts about after the session, how they feel. What do they want to share with me? So one of them said, I'm going into my 15th year in education, and today's orientation has given me ideas and a lot to think about as I grow in my career. I am so excited for all aspects of my job and meeting everyone. I felt like a community or team during the new hire orientation, and I'm excited to be joining the Pelham team. I'm looking forward to making connections with other teachers and administrators. I feel confident I will be able to work on a great interdisciplinary team in Pelham. This orientation is helping me ignite the career I will have here in Pelham. I feel inspired and ready to take the challenge. I'm excited to be here. I was nervous before today, but the culture is so welcoming and special. Feeling good about what I have learned and beginning my career here in Pelham. Feeling inspired about new ideas and teaching styles to be incorporated in lessons. I have all the pieces, the support, the tools, etc., and now it's up to me to make the moves in order to be successful. I'm so happy that I was welcomed into this great school environment, and I feel that I have many great ideas, but much work is ahead. So there's just a few words, I think, that kind of summarizes their experience, but also how much we're excited to have them and to be on board, and also thanking all the administrators and teachers and parents who worked over the summer to kind of help hire them. So looking forward to give you more updates along the way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think we can call that evidence of success.
But also thank you for coming
Yeah.
and sharing your kind words. I appreciate it.
Thanks. 4.6, Assistant Superintendent's update on finance and facilities.
Hi, good evening, and thank you. I'm batting cleanup here now, so that's good. Just like Reggie Jackson. I don't want to strike out as much as Reggie, though. Well, we had a nice opportunity to take a 4-hour tour. One more than the.
But we didn't sink or
But
get
we
lost.
didn't sink or get lost. Took my line. Last week, so I promise you this presentation will be a little bit shorter than that. But it really is just an opportunity to kind of summarize some of the great work that happened over this summer. I think the board had a chance to inspect all the buildings, and I hope you all came away with a greater appreciation of all the work that goes into making the schools ready. As Dr. Champ mentioned, as you look at the buildings and all the work that was done, some of the summer school programs ended August 16th. And some of the school sports programs started August 22nd. So in addition to all the work that was done by our facility staff this summer, which is part of our reset every year, you have to think about also the work that they have to take care of the buildings every day, because the buildings are occupied every day, either through the recreation programs, because every program is used all summer long, and or the sports program. So they did a really terrific job. We should be very proud of them, and we're very fortunate to have such a diligent group of people, our facilities director, our head custodians, maintenance workers, and seasonal employees, right down the group, and everybody really works well. They work well and communicate well with our clerical staff and our professional staff, and people move around as needed. So we're very fortunate. I got some nice pictures here. I got a presentation with a lot of pictures, so that's really nice. One place we didn't go to last week was the Glover Complex. As you look at, we do our annual maintenance there every year. We do a deep cleaning of all of the artificial turf fields. There you see the Glover Field, the Friendship Field, and then on the right-hand side, the new field, the large fields, A, B, C, the multi-purpose field. You also see there's this new scoreboard that we put in the last year. That was added after that field was installed. So I think, again, it's something that just, after the field was completed, we received some feedback. We really wanted one, and we were able to put it in with the bond fund. I really probably should have led with this picture. We really have a great opportunity to see the beautiful front of the high school again. The picture on the left is from our update last year. And to the right now, we see the new beautiful windows and the stonework showing the front of Pelham Memorial High School, looking as great as a 100-year-old building can, and it's been really cared for very well by the community. So I think we're very fortunate. There's still some work that has to be done. You may see some people on a lift working around the building. In all honesty, we lost some of our patients. We wanted to see the scaffolding down too, and we knew that other work could be done with a lift. And hopefully the community appreciates anyway just how beautiful it looks. And again, this should really take care of that building for the years and years to come for the Pelham community.
Jim, can I just add to one of the biggest bonuses on the inside is that the students get back space.
That's correct.
And that's part of what exacerbated our shortage of space for lunch and free time for our high school students, was losing those interior spaces. So that's opened back up.
And the area you're talking about, Dr. Champ, is in the front of that building, those windows that pop out. It's called an Oriole Window. And Mr. Treves, we had a good discussion about it over the tour. But again, those are those Oriole windows that pop out. That's why they're called that. And inside that area are some great common areas for our students to congregate. So what do we do? Here's Pell Memorial High School Room 217. To the left is kind of the before look. As you look at it, you'll see there was some carousel desks there. There was a platform, old carpeting, fluorescent lighting, some really dated paint. And to the right is what it looks like after our very talented maintenance staff had a crack at it. We've got new lights, new LED lighting there, very bright. We've got new ceilings, as you can see, new ceiling tiles. Floors were refinished, painted. Really great new learning environment for our students. So this is just an example of some of the work that we were able to do on time, and now it's open and used for our students at the high school.
Wow, we saw the after, I guess, but
Yes.
to have the before and after is really
Yes.
impressive.
And it was funny, as you, all these buildings are kind of like an archaeological dig. So when you unpack what you're finding, we suspect it was some sort of a typing lab because we saw some of the conduits on the floor and different things like that. It's always good to speculate and kind
confirm
of
that.
talk about it. Thank you.
That is accurate.
Those pictures are such a good example, though. Every year we see how you've added the new lighting to various
Yes.
rooms. And like we talk about the neon lighting to the left versus it's the LEDs to the right, correct? And it's just not only more cost effective, but it's just such a better learning environment.
I agree, and I think the community's made a great investment over the years to really look at this and to improve the areas and do that bright lighting and the ceiling tiles, and it really is good learning environment for our students.
How many more? It's been classroom after classroom. How many more would you say we have to go?
I'd have to look into that.
Okay.
but
I'm not putting you on the spot, but we've covered
yeah.
a lot of classrooms over
I'd
the last
say
number of years.
most of them. There's more done than not done.
Okay.
I'll make that commitment. And then really what goes into what we do. I mean, every year, the first day, Mr. Condon kind of takes all of our seasonal workers, they open up all the lockers, and they clean out all the lockers, which is always a joy. But you're better to do it at the end of the school year than the end of the summer, because there's some stuff that's cooking in there, leftover lunches and other things. But again, then we clean everything out. We remove everything from the classrooms. So that's the contents from the classrooms on the left. We clean all the classrooms. We redo the floors. If it needs painting or touch-up, it's addressed. Then all of the furniture is cleaned after the floors are done and everything's pushed back in. On the right-hand side, then you'll see we work on the floors of the hallways after that, clean it up, and that's how we make it nice for our students. In the middle, there was another project we had there. That's our cafeteria, and we replaced the ceiling tiles and put in LED lighting in the cafeteria space as well over this summer. Much of the same happened at the middle school. These hallways are still, we walked down here today, and the shine is still there, which is always great to see. Just an example of that great work that our folks did. And again, middle school was occupied for most of the summer with students and recreation program. So Hutchinson Elementary School, board had a chance to look at the school, and the field was in process and the site work was in process. On Friday, the site work contractor laid down sod, so that on the right-hand side, you see the baseball diamond. The photo that you see from the left is kind of looking south towards the village in the village of Pelham from left field, from the left field corner, and then at the kind of in the center of the photo, down by the street there, that's the corner of Lincoln and Third, and a little pocket park area there where there's a small knee wall. We've got irrigation there to grow the grass. There's sod there now as well. And we're working to, again, there's still some work to do. The steps have to be worked on. There's still some drainage issues, pitch and, some elevation issues that need to be addressed. For the final playground, but really great progress, and we're very excited to see this. This look here is the look at the parking lot for this particular, for Hutchinson School. The parking lot is located where the former playground was. And right from this perspective, you are standing with your back to the school looking towards Lincoln Avenue. So just to kind of share with you kind of what you're looking at. That parking lot, as the board saw, was installed. It was laid down last Wednesday, and we saw them putting the lines down when we visited. So they're still doing some work. The site work contractor's still using the site, so that parking lot's not yet open. There's fencing that needs to go in. Again, we want to reassure the community. Our intent is not to have the Second Avenue dead end as a through street. There will be gates there. There may be times when they will be used as access gates or during snow clearing operations, but the intent is, as it was before, to leave that closed. To the right, we see the cafeteria for Hutchinson School. Just an opportunity to kind of look at more shiny floors and the lights through the floors. Colonial School, the picture there is our head custodian, Ramphis. Did a wonderful job getting the school prepared for us. And then just another look at Colonial. And then I know the board had a real treat. They had an opportunity to look at the boiler room. So the parts have arrived. We're putting everything back together, and we're just moving ahead, to take care of everything. So it's interesting, though, right? I mean, when you tear it apart and you actually see how it works, it's very interesting. The sections you see on the left, exactly, are the new parts that arrived.
Where did you find them?
I don't want to. Well, they look new actually, but they chipped a step. But we'll just paint them red again. We'll paint the steps red again, so we'll be okay. No, we're fine. Siwanoy had again, nice picture of Siwanoy. I think really great picture with the welcome back sign. What you see is the media center there. To the right, head custodian Tom Warren did a terrific job there. Classroom space at Siwanoy as well as their gymnasium. We could take a step back to the slide and playground at Siwanoy. So at the end of the school year, that slide, we took some vandalism, and that slide was cracked. We were trying to source a new slide through our vendor. They've not yet been able to source the new slide. We taped off the slide. With warning tape, it's been removed. In order to secure the area, what we've done is we've removed that slide as a temporary measure. Our intent is once we get a new slide, just as we did it for Julianne's playground, it will be installed and put back into service. So personally, certainly frustrated that it's not taken care of. I can, there's nothing worse to see than a broken playground, and that's really unfortunate. So we're doing our best to try to get it squared away. Prospect Hill, another school where, again, you'll see we had quite a bit of work. So to the left is our new field, which does not have any orange fencing around it. To the right is a little bit earlier photo with orange fencing, and what you see there is not one of the groundskeepers from Yankee Stadium smoothing out the dirt, but what that person is doing is that's a person from a pest control company, and he is pulling a piece of fabric over that field to see if there are any ticks on the field. We received some concerns from the school community that perhaps there were ticks on that school. Because we're a school, we have some rules and regulations on how we apply pesticides and if we actually can apply pesticides. This is a step you take before you even decide if that's going to happen. So what you do is you pull a sheet, like a piece of fabric like that, over the field. And depending on what sticks, what type of ticks, or if you get ticks on that mat, then you see what the treatment plan will be. Pleased to say, they didn't come up with any ticks.
No ticks?
So, no.
Not one?
No. But again, this is kind of the steps we have to take for like an educational facility. More nice pictures of Prospect Hill. Can you tell from the picture on the left what's new and what's old? I mean, it really looks great. And obviously the part of the building closest to us is the new addition. Really nice slate roof. Again, an Oriole window there, now that we know what that is.
Yeah.
And nicely matched the yellow stone that was on the existing building. But again, really nice match. To the right are just some more pictures of the back door of the building, the new addition, how it connects to the existing building, as well as kind of the roof and how it all comes out together. Let's see. What you have on the right here is on the second floor, there's a fourth grade classroom that we will be putting in there now that we have a certificate of occupancy. So we have fully air-conditioned space, so lucky teacher there. The one room at Prospect Hill, fully central aired like that again, and the sink space that's ready to go in as well. We were able to fit that room out. This is just, again, another look at the new security and entranceway as you look from the old building or the existing building into the new space. Straight ahead is the office for the security vestibule. There's a conference room to the left, And the new elevator to make the building fully ADA accessible is located in this wing. It's a 5-stop elevator, so it'll stop on the basement, this floor that you have here, the main floor of Prospect Hill, second floor of Prospect Hill, and then there's another door on that elevator that gets you into the library at Prospect Hill, because for those who have been there, there's a small set of stairs on the top floor that takes you up into that library space. To access the gymnasium, there is a small lift, kind of what you may have seen. It's like a stair lift, not quite an elevator, that a person who's mobility impaired will be able to gain access to the gymnasium. So we're really excited to get moving here. Some additional work that was done, all the hallways at Pelham High School were painted this summer. Interior renovations that were in progress, we had delays due to labor and supply and casework shortage, delays and supply shortages, supply line shortages. So some work is happening. What we've done is we had a meeting, the construction manager had a meeting with the contractors today. A list of expectations were established. The first list of expectation is the building needs to be safe. All employees all work people have to register at the front desk every day. They're not to go in the hallways. And if they're going from one work location to another, we've asked them to walk outside the building from one location to the other, because again, you're working at the business office, the former business office, and the former administrative offices side of things. So we've established those expectations. We need to keep the doors closed. They can't prop doors open if they're making deliveries. We're going to work together with them so that they can communicate with us and we can properly take care of everything. They're very much aware of our needs and our demands. They also are very much aware of what's happened in the nation. Their parents too. So there was no pushback from them with what we shared. On top of that, the noise they have can't be disruptive to the classroom. The building principal was in on that meeting as well. And if it is a problem, we're going to have to shut it down. Right now, their instructional time is the priority, and the construction happens second. If they both can happen, that's terrific. But their time to make noise was July and August, and that was shared.
And Jim, the status of the casework for the art rooms?
So the casework, it's all been ordered, and we're just
Months
waiting.
ago.
We're waiting on delivery, and what we expect is they're going to need some time to install it once it's received. So they'll probably need a week-long time period, maybe one of the school breaks. So December would probably be the first break period for a week to do that. Oh, thank you, though. I mentioned breaks, December. We also have some time off for some of the Jewish holidays at the end of September and in October. We've made very clear to the contractors that we will make those spaces available to them to work those days. So again, we want to push this project forward. And these buildings are staffed on a second shift, so if they choose to do that, they have the ability to do that as well. So we made it pretty clear, again, that we're looking for forward progress, and they indicated the same. So we'll keep our fingers crossed there. Again, at the middle school, we did some more painting and touch-up paint. At Hutchinson School, we're very lucky to have a talented maintenance mechanic who likes working on locks and is very good at it. He completed all of the work for for Unimac, who was our general contractor, and we're charging them back for the work. We'd rather have it done the way we like to have it done anyway, because we've relocked and rekeyed the entire district. Again, as we do this, we did our normal cleaning, waxing, and maintenance district-wide. We have 30 seasonal student workers, and this work really can't happen without their great help. And these kids are terrific. They probably put in 20 to 30,000 steps a day. So for the parents of those students, when they come home and they're tired, there's a reason why they're tired. They're moving desks, they're walking up and down stairs, they're learning good work relationships, and they're really providing a great value to the district. So we were very fortunate to have their assistance. Now, again, all 30 don't work the entire summer.
Yeah.
You have some for a couple of weeks on and off. Some say they'll do their first few weeks and maybe it's not for them. They're tired of walking. Other kids just keep coming back, and they really do great work.
How many kids apply?
So it's certainly oversubscribed. I think we were over 50 students this year. And again, part of that is managing them too, though, because we've got a large bunch. And then our full-time staff, they have families. They like to go on vacation in the summertime, like most folks, is an opportune time to do that. So again, with the staffing and everything, this is really very helpful for us. Our grounds personnel, obviously they take care of the grounds, but they also take care of all the repainting on the lines and on the sidewalks, the safety lines, play areas. And the Simonite Teachers Room, and I put quotes on that, was renovated. I think we shared that with the board. We took some cabinets that were formerly in the central office, administrative offices, and those cabinets were repurposed at Simonite, and they're able to live a new life and useful life without spending other monies at the Simonite School in the Teachers Room, which is a nice improvement for what they had. And that's where I am.
Jim, I just wanted, you forgot we visited Julianne's playground.
Thank you, you're right. So we had a great stop at Julianne's Playground. I think as the board saw, that the two slides that I mentioned have both been repaired. And we're also working on installation of the tire swing. So I believe without the rain, we were looking to have it done this week. So that should be done imminently too. We're coordinating the installation with the principal of Hutchinson School, Dr. Fitzgerald. So we're excited for that to happen too.
It's really outstanding.
We're very
Thank
fortunate.
you,
We got a great people.
Your
Thank you.
team, John, really outstanding.
Thank you.
I'm the PTA liaison for the high school this year, and I know that they've asked specifically about art classrooms, and
Yes.
you mentioned the casework, which is the cabinetry,
Mhm.
is just in backordered, or we're waiting,
Correct.
still waiting on it. So I guess just keep us updated on that, and I have 4 meetings with them this year, so I want to be able to
At least
Give-
by one of those
give
meetings.
some kind of progress.
We'll do our best to keep the heat off.
Yeah.
And of course, they raised the issue of lunch space. And I guess we're opening up the Oriole Window
Yes.
seating. But maybe, I don't know, in terms of a long-term something, maybe the facilities committee this year could think about if there's any kind of long-term solution for lunchroom. Another issue, I think Will is the Siwanoy.
That's correct.
Okay, so you'll probably be hearing about the Siwanoy slide. So maybe just,
Yes.
Yeah, no, Friday morning is when I meet with that PTA, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to get in front of that already. I'm sure it'll come up.
so just keep us updated on.
Absolutely, and I think it's, there's a lot of questions about a lot of the work that's going on right now. Obviously, the vote took place back in 2018, and a couple things have happened since then. But like with Siwanoy and Prospect Hill, there were a lot of things that are identified as part of that capital project. So ADA work, security vestibules, the rooftop, the air conditioning, although it feels like it's working great here tonight, but the rooftop units in this particular building are reaching that point of their useful age, useful life. So it's all of those things that have been taken into account. Obviously, Siwanoy still doesn't have full accessibility to that building, so that was one thing that was brought up as part of the 2018 bond. It didn't make the final selection of projects, but I know that when we get to that next point and we do part of the facilities work this year and part of our 5-year review, these are things that always come up and are reintroduced. Air conditioning, it's a hot topic item, and we know there's some infrastructure things that may have to be done electrical-wise prior to that. Those are things that, again, were all discussed as part of the 18 bond, and that I'm sure that they'll be rejuvenated as we move forward, too. So I think we've seen a nice step forward, and there's always work to be done. We think about our own homes and the things that fall apart as quickly as we put them together. We've got about 500,000 square feet, and we're doing the same things. But I think we're really fortunate. Obviously, the buildings are old, but they're well-maintained. The community's done a nice job of dedicating to taking care of these spaces, and we want to do the same.
Can I just add a couple items to that too? And it could be helpful with the slide conversation. You may remember in the budget, we did put in to do a master plan for playgrounds this year. So that's something that will be underway, and that would touch on all playgrounds. Certainly doing
Standards.
the design this year, and then that'll give us an idea of how to budget for going into the coming years. But I also wanted to touch on the high school cafeteria issue. That is a long-standing problem, and I would love to find a solution. I know Mr. Berkowitz would too. I think with COVID, the last couple of years with COVID, with all the spacing requirements, I think that definitely put that into a new light for all of us. The school's moving back towards normal this year. They've got open campus for grades 10, 11, and 12. Ninth grade is fully in this year. Before COVID, and for many, many years, I know Sue can verify this one as well, that it was only 11th and 12th grade had open campus, and then second half of 10th grade, those students in good academic standing could then earn the privilege of open campus. So up until the pandemic, we had all 9th and a portion of 10th grade in the building every day for lunch. And we managed it. It wasn't great. There's probably better solutions, but I think we've just kind of had a little bit of institutional knowledge has kind of come and gone over the last couple of years, be it, administrators leaving and the pandemic. But, I think one of the things that we've mentioned before, in the coming year, we're going to have Michael Reddig come and help take a look at our master schedule at the secondary. There may be some solutions there in scheduling. I'm told that in the past years, they tended to try to get more of the high school students with lunch scheduled periods 7 and 8, which, yes, it's a little bit late, but then there's plenty of space, periods 7 and 8, which of course then that impacts the master schedule of course offerings. And I think the focus the last few years has been to try to get students as many of their course requests as possible. With every choice comes a consequence. So I think when he comes, that's one of the areas we're going to talk with him about. Are there strategic master scheduling moves that we could make to help alleviate some of our space issues?
And he's coming this year?
Yeah, we're going to be, I know that Dr. Garcia had already reached out to him before this year started, and I know Dr. Bowman will pick up that torch and run with it at a certain point, I believe. It's on the agenda for this year.
The only other thing I wanted to say, because I've had parents ask about contractors being in the school building, and you mentioned, so in this, the remodel in the high school,
Yes.
said they will have to check in at the desk and show an ID.
Yes, so we have greeters at every building, and you may have a work person at any building on a given day. And we do our best to schedule that work to happen during non-school hours. But when that does happen, the contractor presents himself at the front door. We have a system called, the visitor management system called Raptor. Take your driver's license, and that alerts us as to whether the person, if they have a background that we should know about.
Okay.
And then that can determine whether or not we choose to provide access to the building or not. What we also do, though, is we'll give them, so these workers, most of them work for their companies for a while. They have their work IDs. We ask them to put their work IDs on, and then we'll give them the sticker, your daily sticker, and put it on your work ID. Other laborers or people, we have a visitor ID, and we tell them you have to wear it. And then that's what they wear when they're in the building. So, again, we try to have them, if they're going to be in the hallways, we don't want them in the hallways during period changes. We really want them to be as much of a non-factor in the students' lives as they work through the day. I mean, I'm sure kids heard some noise, and we want to make sure that that's kept to a minimum. And that's what we shared with the contractors. I mean, you can't swing away at the ceiling of a building or the ceiling of a room when you've got students above you in a class. So that's just something that obviously we wouldn't have.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you to your team.
Thank you. We'll let them know. They're great.
Okay. Next is 5, communications and comments from the public.
Says anything related to the agenda specifically.
Anything related to the agenda, or
Move up the late one, too. Yeah.
if you would. Okay. I guess just say your name and address.
Swanee Aquino Travala, 139 6th Street. I am so excited that I'm here. I didn't get the memo, but I showed up. I'm really excited to hear the thought and the energy and the effort that's being put into the curriculum and the agenda of like just reintegrating children back into the school. You all kind of answered my question already and my comment. My question was like, what strategies are you implementing to screen and address learning loss versus a true kind of a disability, which is more of your area, Tracy? But it's been on my mind, like all these kids that kind of were struggling already, and you kind of spoke about that and how far behind they are now. I'm sorry. How far behind they are now and what we're doing to address that. And when do we know whether it's a learning disability versus they just fell behind because of COVID? My youngest child, I would have enrolled in the summer program because I felt like he was already kind of needing support, and he really slows down during the summer, so I hired a tutor for him. My oldest did well and wouldn't have needed any summer school, but I feel like the youngest one really struggled through the COVID years because he was impacted during first and second grade. And so I feel like he didn't really grasp as much as the oldest one. Struggled through, but he did a lot better. And I also forced him to take the Regents, which I am really happy I did. And so that's more of sort of what I'm thinking these days, just how do we capture these children who are so far behind and make sure that they're catching up and that they're getting the supports that they need. And when do we know, or will we know, whether it was a true learning disability versus just learning loss? So.
Thank you. I think we can't talk about any specific student, but what would be the best way if somebody had a concern about their child to reach out to the principal or?
Yeah, absolutely. Classroom teacher, principal, guidance counselor, school counselor if it's a secondary student. Absolutely. They're going to be the right ones to start with as far as students who are struggling and then knowing what processes and what points to start accessing those different processes. Yep.
And we have something called multi-tiered.
Multi-tiered system of support.
Mhm.
Yep, that's in place at all the schools. That's generally that's the pipeline to start addressing student intervening when students are struggling. And most of the time that students don't need most of the time that fills in the gaps. And that prevents students from needing to even be considered for special education. But that's also kind of the vetting process of at which point is that enough, or are there other issues at play that need to be looked at more closely?
Okay, thank you. Section 6 is financial reports and motions. I'm kind of thinking just take a consent agenda of 6.1 through 6.8. Can I have a motion?
Well, the 6.7 and 6.8, could I just get some background on those? I'm not sure what those are. And
You can do that
Do you-
after
Yeah,
we
okay.
take the
Do a
motion.
motion and
So,
then
Okay.
so you could take the motion for all that, and once we get to that, we'll do a discussion of any of those. So
Okay.
you have the opportunity.
So we need a motion.
So I motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, now,
And we can do comments, questions, and if anyone objects to the consent agenda, that item can be removed and voted on separately. I read today in my president's board manual, so.
I don't know, Jim or
Well,
Steve.
6.7 is, there's a request to add a modified cheerleading program.
Modified what?
Cheerleading. We don't have modified cheerleading, didn't have it before. And there was such a need for an increase in terms of student interest. So there was a request to add that as a experience for our kids, which would lead to a stipend. And this that MOA is to address it in the contract, to add that position to our teachers' experiences, but also.
And that would be in line with other modified coaching stipends.
Correct, right? There was research done in terms of how much it would be, and we did a little bit of a formula to make sure it made sense for the district, but also for the coach, and that was negotiated with the teachers union.
And for the other one, there's contract language with the association that covers any damage that may happen to an educator's vehicle while they're here or on school business. However, it caps it at a certain dollar amount per incident, and then in the aggregate at a certain dollar amount as well. Last year, we didn't have any claims except one. The one claim is beneath the aggregate amount of the $7,500, but the one incident that we have here exceeds the $750 per incident limit. In this particular instance, if this person were to put it through their insurance company, then their insurance rates would be negatively impacted by an experience that happened while they were on district business. So the long-term implications of that could perhaps cause somebody to not want to use their vehicle in the future and impact district in other ways.
So Jim, this is a new one. That's a helpful explanation, and thanks for asking. Well, would this involve any, like, if there were a teacher who were coaching at an away event and
Yes,
they had their car there, or they got in an accident, or
yes,
Or the teachers that are dual schools?
if they're between schools. So again, the contract language caps it every year for the district at the $7,500 and a per incident amount. This particular one, like I said, we are below the cap, the aggregate cap for the year, but the per incident exceeds the limit that's in the contract. So that's why this MOA is here.
Thank you for the explanation.
Any other things to highlight or other questions?
And Jackie got more information about budget transfers today, I think.
Yes, I just wanted to understand kind of what I was looking at with the treasurer's report and.
Yeah, I think we had a great opportunity to give you a sneak preview on Monday's Finance Committee meeting, which was great, and we'll end up sharing that with the board in greater detail. And I had some homework from Jackie. I'll follow up with you after the meeting. I've got an answer for that, too.
Awesome.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. Okay, 7 is superintendent's personnel recommendations. I think we could do 7.1 through 7.5 as a consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
so moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Just share a bit more information about the amended agreement with the interim principal.
Absolutely, I was going to do that. So we started the search process to find the next probationary assistant principal for Pelham Memorial High School. So we had a lot of applicants. We went through the process, and we did not have enough that we were comfortable moving to the next level. So we have extended that search, reposted that. So we'll be running through that process again. So I'm very appreciative to Mr. Leprine, who was willing to make some adjustments to some other commitments that he has, and is able to stay with us through the end of the calendar year.
Great.
Which is wonderful, yeah. And that would be, gives us a lot more time to really thoughtfully find the right candidate. And also, that's a natural break in the calendar that would likely make a better transition point. So we're very appreciative to him, and things are already up and running here at the high school today, yesterday and today, and under his, with his assistance in joint leadership, so.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. 8.1 is a motion to approve Schedule D, Committee on Special Education. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? 9.1 is new business. Nope. 10.1, communications and comments from the public. There's nobody here. So. Motion
Dr. Mr. President, I don't know how to address you. Dr. President, would you entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.